Live from Hollywood, we are back to recap another episode of Dancing with the Stars, season 33. You guys asked for it, and we are so happy to be able to deliver another episode recap here of Dancing with the Stars, and possibly more down the line. I know things look a little different here as you're looking at this panel. Looks a little different from last week. Unfortunately, Brandon and Sasha, both tied up this week, are not able to join. But the plan is going forward, we will have what we are hoping for weekly recaps of Dancing with the Stars. And a little extra treat, we're hoping to have those recaps live on Tuesday nights. So that is the current plan. My guest that is here with me today, that is not Brandon or Sasha, that is filling in for them, is reacting in real time to hearing some of this news. So let me, of course, bring him in. Mike Bloom. Mike, how are you?
I am great, Matt. If the question is, what would you love more than getting to talk about this show with you? The answer, of course, would be nothing.
Nothing. Well, we have a lot to talk about there. But Mike, I mean, in the meantime, while Brandon and Sasha are away, perfect person to talk about with some Dancing with the Stars. Not only do you still cover it for Parade, but also you, again, we talked about it last week. You and Angela used to hold things down on the Dancing with the Stars beat here.
Oh, yeah, those were some salad days. I remember it clear as day in our condo and Riverside Drive in New York City. Angela and I talking about, I think it was season 25, won by Rashad Jennings. So yeah, wow. Here we are, 8 seasons later, and excited to get into this. As you mentioned, I don't really necessarily talk about it, but yeah, I do actually cover Dancing with the Stars for Parade. I write up recaps, so I kind of have always followed in the loose outer orbit of the show, slowly but surely working my way into past the asteroid belt into the more of the center of the galaxy. And now I have an opportunity to talk with the shining star that is yourself, now that you're bringing out and out coverage to RHAP again, which is very, very fun.
I know when we were talking and you were like, yeah, I still cover the show. I'm like, you don't tweet about it. I didn't see this. But I'm glad to know there's a written form that we can find this from you as well.
I mean, relatively, it's just, here's what the scores were and here's who was eliminated. So I'm not necessarily.
You got to get it somewhere.
Reinventing the wheel here.
You got to get it somewhere. But okay, so just to reset again one more time, the plan going forward is that we are hoping to do live recaps. The plan most likely will be myself and Sasha. Will also have some guests along the way in the mix on those Tuesday nights. Brandon will be around. He's not going anywhere. He's going to pop in from time to time, not necessarily every single week, but he will join us from time to time. And that's the gist of it. We're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you guys all for the response last week. Thank you for the downloads and the comments and everything, and letting it be known that you wanted more of this. One thing that we do need to ask, of course, right up front, is that if you are showing up here, if you just found this for the first time or anything, you got to subscribe. You got to hit that button. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe in all the places. Rob has a website.com/subscribe to do that, and make sure that your podcast feeds or your YouTube page, all that stuff is getting the podcast as soon as it's available, all that good stuff. So that's that.
Yeah. All right. Did you get the most requests ever to continue the podcast? Is that something you can tout much like they did last night?
Yes. I mean, I can't. I don't have the voice for that. But they did say they had the most viewers, I think it was, in years. I went back and checked this, Mike. The most viewers in 2 years, 3 years.
That counts, technically speaking. Well, it does also make sense. I think that, listen, certainly Dancing with the Stars has had a fair share of casting capital be bad people in the past, but there was something special about Anna Delvey's casting, just in terms of a statement it made from a societal perspective. Maybe on the lighter side of things, you have the most recent Bachelor and Bachelorette, and that's going to draw a lot of eyes. But I think most of all, those numbers fall at the feet of a pommel horse from Stephen Nedoroscik and Ilona Maher, just because you are picking not only 2 Olympians, but also 2 of the most social media prolific Olympians, one that went viral and one that has curated this huge profile for herself. It does make sense that it's going to draw people to it. Now, what is interesting is not to compare this too much to another reality TV contemporary, but when Survivor cast John Lovett and John Lovett was voted out in the first episode, plenty of people said, oh, I'm not going to watch the show anymore. I only watched it for John. Now he's gone. Again, not to say that there were huge Delvey heads coming in saying, oh, I want to see how Anna does. But with her elimination, I wonder how many people that were kind of coming in for that spectacle aspect of it are going to stay with the show. I do think the Olympians crowd, though, is in for the long haul.
Yes, and cast aside the production on the show, I think has been great. The group of people that are leading the way here. Colleen was asking in the patron group, how happy are we with the hosts and judges tables? Erin was great, Miss Len, but this is a great team to watch. Yeah, of course, anybody may miss Tom out there as well. Tom Bergeron hosted the show for years, obviously, and then we transitioned. It's been a journey here on Dancing with the Stars, but the group that we have right now, Alfonso and Julianne, to me, are a great tag team. They're fantastic to watch. And the judges table, of course, we all miss Len, but has been a lot of fun with, the consistency of Carrie-Anne and Bruno being here all the way throughout, and then having Derek slot in as that new permanent third spot. I just think it's been great. It's been keeping people engaged. The fact that they only have one a year is probably also leading to that when dancing shows up, you're excited for a new season. They haven't kind of exhausted their possibilities of casting wise because they haven't done 2 seasons, maybe. Yeah. But by the time we get to this new season, everybody seems excited. They figured out their Disney Plus versus ABC airing schedule. So
Porque no los dos.
Exactly.
Throw them both on there.
Exactly. So, I think that they kind of have the right formula right now. And, you talk about a show, Survivor, that's obviously, working its way towards 50. Dancing with the Stars on 33 here, but no reason to believe they're not going to keep going for years to come and eventually hit their own 50. So,
yeah, though I do think, and maybe it's just because, I watched American Idol for way too long, that I am a little bit for circulating through the judges a little bit. Yes, on the one hand, it's nice to have sort of institutions in the form of Carrie-Anne and Bruno. On the other hand, sometimes it's nice to sort of welcome in newer figures as well. I mean, Matt, you and I are both Drag Race fans. That panel has pretty much stayed intact for now 10 seasons nearly. And there are so many calls for all right, let's replace Carson, let's replace Ross, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes a new thing is good. Having Derek in there was really fantastic. Even when they had Julianne in there as a fourth judge for a little bit, sometimes it's nice to just sort of shake things up. And yes, there's always going to be those people that are inevitably be bring this person back. But for the most part, they sort of stick it out, weather the storm, and then those changes stick. I don't know. I think it'd be nice to maybe see a bit of a changing of the guard, even if it's just adding in a new fourth judge next season.
I mean, look, right now, again, the ratings seem to be where they want them to be. They're very happy. They're announcing it publicly on the show. So I can't imagine they do that super soon. But if there's any kind of dip and they're like, oh, we need to change things up, they've shown over the years that they are not afraid to freshen things up at a moment's notice. As far as the consistency of all that goes, that's great. The consistency of the schedule coming up, not so much. If you watched or if you didn't watch, you heard Alfonso say that next week there is no episode. The ballroom is closed. They will have 2 weeks to be practicing their next 2 dances, because when they come back, I think it's Monday, October 7th, I believe. And then Tuesday, the following day, they're going to have back-to-back episodes, 2 nights, 2 different themes for all the couples. But next week, because of the VP debates, they will not be on the air. With that said, watch this space, because we may still have a little something for you. So details still to be worked out on that, but keep an eye on social medias and stuff. And whatever we have put together for you by then should be here. But then we'll be back, hopefully that Tuesday night to get into the swing of things and maybe get a live show in under our belt. With all that said, Mike, are you enjoying the season in 2 episodes in?
I am. I think Dancing with the Stars, there is a little bit of a mindset you get used to with the season, which is the stars and scrubs mentality, quite literally, from both a fame perspective as well as from a talent perspective. I feel like the past few seasons, you could pretty much walk into anything on that first night and be like, okay, I can pretty much flag who's going to be in at least the top 4, maybe the one to win it all. And then I can also flag who's set up to go immediately. Now, look, when it comes to the latter, I would not necessarily say we're deprived of that this season, though, again, we were very surprised, at least from my perspective, this episode, that the 2 bottom-dwelling denizens of the leaderboard did not go in this episode, though assumingly they might in that doubleheader next week, or 2 weeks from now. But I will say from a top-down perspective, it's more of a wide-open field than I think I've experienced in a good amount of time. I've been covering this show from a journalistic perspective since I want to say season 29. I think that was the Caitlin Bristow season. Yes, it was. So I've been covering it since then. And I feel like ever since then, again, it's been this matter of okay, there's a handful of people that we know we're going to do well, and there's probably one person that is a ringer to get it. And sometimes we're surprised when JoJo Siwa ends up coming in second place as an instance, but then you get Charlie D'Amelio winning, and then you have, Xochitl was able to surprise last year, but again, bit more of an exception to the rule. So it does feel like, with one exception, everyone is kind of more on equal footing, and it feels like this is a very energetically solid cast. And I think, while I could definitely see that one ringer make it to the finale and maybe even have a chance at winning, I think there are some other people that, from a balance of both fame and skills, could stand a legitimate shot of pulling off an upset.
I think this is a wide open field. There are plenty of contenders out here, and I think that it's going to be a season where truly the stars of the season form as the weeks go, which happens a lot. That, you start to fall in love with the different, couples as you go on, and as you get like that one dance that you're like, oh my God, the magic is there with that couple. So I think that's, we're just waiting to see, like, we see the top contenders, but we're waiting to see who the true breakouts are going to be. I do want to go back to what you said earlier, and of course we're going to get to the results as we go here of this episode. And the couples that are sent home not being the two couples at the bottom of the leaderboard that you might have expected to have gone home. Dancing with the Stars, for me, for anybody, I don't know if anybody's checking out this podcast and is like, I never watched the show, but let me check out the podcast. Dancing with the Stars, in the final minutes of the episode, rivals only Survivor to me, of like the final moments of like waiting to find out how the vote's going to go. But like those moments of when, because you have no idea, there's no way, obviously, for us to know. Like, you can see the judges scores, but if it's a 50% judge score and 50% audience vote, we have no idea who is getting the most fan support. We've been blindsided countless times as Dancing with the Stars fans over the years of a couple that you expect to go home, and that weeks and weeks and weeks go by that couple has a fan support to stay in. And that's going to happen this season. It happens every single season. But just like when you get to that final moment and you're sitting there talking to yourself or whoever you're with, we see the final three couples that are possibly going home in this episode or in any given episode. And you can say in your mind who should go home, who you think, but then just waiting for that moment where it gets revealed is always very dramatic to me, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, plus, to your point, it's really out of your hands. Like, we can all formulate our opinions, but what makes it, even more interesting than a show like Survivor or Big Brother is, like, we're not given any sort of narrative as to the voters. In Survivor's case, we know the voters. The voters are the contestants. We get some perspective into what they're thinking. We can't necessarily go door to door to every person voting via text, tablet, computer, etc., and be like, yeah, what did you think about that rumba? So it really is, and again, this goes back to the Idol days, just putting your brains in the mentality of, okay, is what I think vibing with what the populace thinks? And then you add on top of that, unlike these other talent shows, which by and large utilize unknown talent, this comes in with already stratification, in that it's like, well, okay, how did this person do? And like, yes, they're being judged like this, but does it matter when they have all these fans supporting them? And that's how we get a Harry Jousey succession, for instance. And we'll see, perhaps in the case with Tori Spelling, the case might have been that the 91210 fans just might not have been showing out as much as maybe people might have thought from how much millennials talk about 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, look, if this is your first season and you're jumping in with us for the first time, you are going to see one or two of your favorite couples go home at some point, and you're not going to think it was fair, and it probably wasn't fair.
I mean, as a wise woman once said, if someone's going to win, someone's got to go home.
Wise woman did say that once, maybe last night. What a quote. But yeah, the voting is going to be how the voting is. It's always going to blindside us, and you'll usually 9 times out of 10 get to the finale with worthwhile couples, and even if your favorite doesn't win or whoever you think is the most deserving is going to win, usually it's people that deserve to be there based on scoring. Sometimes not. There's obviously been exceptions, but let's get into this season. Let's get into our second episode here. We had no elimination in the first episode, so that we could send 2 people home this week. This is on top of the fact that Jenn was an addition to the cast, so we had an extra cast member, so they really got to get people out of here, assuming that when we come back in 2 weeks that we're going to have 1 elimination both nights. So again,
I have no idea. I mean, this show usually runs for like 10 to 11 weeks.
Yeah,
around 10. So yeah, I'm just trying to time it out. That I don't know, actually, maybe they usually try to finish around like right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So maybe if they want to push past Thanksgiving, they could still keep it to like do the combined scores once again. But otherwise, yeah, I think now that we've started the ball rolling, let's not try to stop the momentum by doing another 2-night culminative score extravaganza.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely could because all these couples are going to be preparing a dance for both nights. So maybe they want to give, everybody a chance to do both dances that they're going to be preparing, but only one way to find out. I feel like they should do an elimination both nights, but we'll see. So here we have Oscars night. The episode opens up with, our usual routine that we're going to get, just kind of like a little acting out of our judges, out of our hosts. And they have the judges walking the red carpet. Bruno's going to come up and drop kick the camera because Alfonso says something mean about him, being a diva on set. But, it's always cute, a fun way to just kind of engage more with the hosts and with the judges before we get things started. But as we begin our first couple, let me pull this up for us here.
Let's see them.
And we are going to get right into talking about our Bachelorette, Jenn, Tran, and Sasha Farber.
Yes, here we go. So Jenn and Sasha. So, okay, what was the issue that happened here? It's that they couldn't hear the band in like... Okay, so because like they're clearly not wearing earpieces. No. I don't think. They're not wearing any sort of leads. There's no programming in their ear. So I'm assuming that the sound is provided to them via speakers. And it just so happened that despite the fact that the band seemingly is like 6 feet behind them,
right there,
they were not able to hear the feedback from the band. And so you see like Sasha is actually counting out loud to keep them in rhythm.
Yeah, very strange opening to the night. It's funny. They do like all these technical rehearsals, dress rehearsals the day before. They are out here all over social media posting, we're at the dress rehearsal, the camera blocking rehearsal, and you still have mistakes. That's show business. But they get out there and I didn't notice it. Of course, the music is playing for us, but the music for them, whatever speakers it was supposed to be coming out of, it was not. All they heard was a ticker sound. And it's a small studio at the end of the day. So they still were able to hear some semblance of the music somewhere, and just kind of like knowing the beats. That's what Sasha was trying to give all the credit to with Jenn. But very it's tough to be the opening couple, let alone being the opening couple and having the music not start right away. Obviously their scores weren't terrible, but they did still end up towards the bottom of the leaderboard for the night with a score of 19.
Yeah, and they already set the bar in terms of cartwheels. This is a night, Matt, full of flips and tricks and turns. Listen, the definition of ballroom has been stretched to its limit on Dancing with the Stars. Just throw another one on the Barbie here with we'll have everyone jumping over each other and flipping over arms. That's what the ballroom was all about back in the 1800s.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was a kid, I feel like my biggest memory, and a reminder for anybody out there that maybe didn't check out the first episode last week, I don't think anybody that comes on this podcast is going to be somebody trained in professional dance by any means, unless, oh no, I'm sorry, Mike is right here. Otherwise, we are all watching and commenting on the entertainment aspect of this, the reality show, and we're letting the judges do the judging. And I say that specifically for myself.
Did you, when Derek complimented Steven's tourgeté, were you like, does he have pasta on the stove? What is he talking about?
Right. I was like, bless you, or something like that. But yeah, she obviously seemed a little bit nervous with that. They're doing a little party, never killed nobody. These are all supposed to be themes. Or not themes. There's all supposed to be songs from Oscar-winning movies. I saw some comments in the Patreon group of people saying some of these songs were such a stretch for making you think of an Oscar movie.
If the movie won an Oscar, hell, Suicide Squad, which is like one of the worst superhero movies ever made, technically won an Oscar. There are visuals, there's makeup, there's titles that need to be done. So yeah, I think all of these technically probably won an Oscar. Now, is it the most famous song from that movie? No, but they're trying to find reasons to shoehorn in music there. And even when they do, like when you have to do a dance to the theme from The Godfather, that was a case of like, the song is perfect for the theme, but terrible for a ballroom show.
Yeah, no, there was definitely some strange choices, but at the end of the day, they throw a couple of bops in there. Some couples get obviously better songs. A couple like Chandler and Brandon, I think, didn't even have to dance. They could have just played the song and they probably would have gotten, 8s right off the board. But
I am sad though that we didn't I feel like What Was I Made For was like a perfect freestyle number, like when we inevitably start getting into freestyle and the 10s start getting thrown out, that felt perfect for that.
Question on that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. We were asked about the just like the format of how they do the dances now. Yeah, Eliza was asking, how do you feel about them doing all sorts of different dances on one night? I thought the 2 dances was nice because it was much easier and more fair to directly compare performances. I mean, both of us have watched the show for a good amount of time to remember that they used to only do 1 or 2 different dances each week, and now we get a whole big mix. Do you have any thought on which way's better?
Well, if you ask Gleb, it's the same dance every week, considering what he's teaching his partner. Bad teacher. But I have thought more and more that I probably am the Bruno Tonioli of RHAP.
I can see that for you. I mean,
over-exuberant energy.
Sometimes he just rips his shirt open. Yeah, that's your thing.
I'm basically there.
I mean,
depends on what time this podcast
was up.
I like it as much as I facetiously claim that I know ballroom. I don't necessarily watch the show for skill. I'm not watching to make technical comparisons, and so I don't really need to put people up against each other. Plus, I feel like even when you do that, it's still a bit apples and oranges because it's a different song. You're wearing different outfits. In some cases, you have very different types of partners as well from a physical perspective. And so then for me, it's then just have everyone do a different dance then. Because then at least it gets a bit of a highlight of some are going to be up-tempo and then some are going to be slower. I think if we had a whole night of waltzes, that might be something to put you to sleep. And then if you have a whole night of jives and quick steps, then that's going to be my morning coffee.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the mix. I can understand, anybody that is watching the show for a much more focused dance perspective. It's okay, well, if you can compare all of these different performances that are the same style together, then it really helps to highlight who did a good job in that style and who didn't. But at the end of the day, they want a mix of some slower songs and dances and some faster and, all different types of energy to keep everybody alive and awake in the ballroom. So
yeah, and then plus not to mention that when it comes to some of the more judging's questionable choices, comparing each other as well would have the emperor's lack of clothes get seen a little bit too, right? Of oh, you gave so-and-so a 7 for this tango. How'd you give this person an 8 for the tango? This also allows them to kind of maybe obfuscate a bit more their inflation of scores.
Yeah, I mean, not entirely, as we're going to see. There's plenty of scores that are going to come flying in the door here. For some specific couples that will end up being the same score for this couple, for that couple. And Carrie Ann talks about, I have a different scale for everybody. I look at everybody on a different, on their own scale from what a 10 is for them. And I get that. And it's, very easy to understand why you would grade, Reginald on a different scale than you're going to grade Chandler on. But it still is, strange to look at the leaderboard and see, a 6 is a 6, whether it's in this column or that column.
Right.
And when it factors into the final vote.
I think it makes sense on paper that if I am a contestant competing, I don't want to ever feel like my ceiling is a 7 or an 8 from an objective perspective, right? Of well, I can try to work as hard as I can, but just from a skill-based perspective, I can never hit a 10. So I am okay with a bit of the rubber banding and a sliding scale for everything, but it makes it tough, but it's always going to make for a talking point amongst fans of, oh, so-and-so got this score. It's an easy thing to gather around the metaphoric water cooler.
Yeah. So Jenn and Sasha, I thought they were good. I mean, I don't think that they got exactly what they wanted for. I feel like usually, and by they, I mean production, usually when you put a couple first, you think they're going to start the night off really strong. And with one of the lower scores of the night, I'm not saying that it was necessarily their fault. Again, the music was confusing there. It just, was a little slower of a start than they probably wanted. But, the judges gave a good reaction. Bruno called Jenn a sassy, mischievous little kitten, and Jenn took well with that. So
he shouldn't even have a chair. He needs to have one of those standing desks, just detach his little thing and have it move up and down, because it feels like within the first 2.5 words that he says, he's slowly standing up to deliver his entire not prepared at all monologue. So I say get rid of the formalities. Again, I'm all about changing things up. Ditch the chairs. have Bruno, get his, actually give him a treadmill desk, have him pull a Tran. I think
that'd be
he'd
wild.
be able to stay in shape while also showing as animated as he is.
If Bruno does not stand up for you, you didn't have a very good week, is really, what it comes down to. But they're satisfied enough with their final scores, a 38 out of 60. I always love when they combine week scores and it's like a 38 out of 60. That's it. But a lot of points left on the floor. We have still, of course, not seen a 9 in the ballroom so far this season. We will. I thought it might have been this week. I was convinced that we'll get to Chandler. I thought she was going to get it. I thought, a couple people might have gotten at least one, but they're saving the 9s, obviously saving the 10s for now.
That's the thing, is that I think if we talk about wanting to have room to grow for the contestants, also room to grow for the judges as well. And I don't know if they necessarily want to peak by being like, yeah, because they want to also have some sort of growth narrative as well for these contestants. So they want to, again, sliding scale, your 8 is equal to Reginald VelJohnson's 12, basically.
Right. Let's get to Eric and Britt. We have a couple here that I think many expected to go home this evening, but did not. They are at the bottom of the leaderboard as far as points are concerned. Overall, they ended up with a 30 out of 60 for the 2 nights combined, which is 1 point behind Reginald's scores. Last week, they had 5s across the board. This week, they still had 1 5, but then the other judges, we had Carrie-Ann go up a point, and we had Derek go down a point, as they did. They had a Godfather theme.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with older people. Usually they get associated kind of jokingly with Viagra, but in this case, quite ironically, the stiffness is no issue. He's not having flexibility, perhaps, is more desired because, this guy, unfortunately, and I can't remember, because Carrie-Ann then goes into this impassioned monologue, right, to Eric about working through the fact that she has a chronic pain, suffering through chronic pain and working through that. Did he talk about that last week? Did I just completely memory hold that? Okay. Yeah. All right. Maybe I misremembered that. So, I mean, again, sliding scale, I give him kudos for it. And, he's doing his best actorly thing. He's trying to put on the best Godfather tie he can, quite literally, in that opening. But otherwise, it's very tough to compare to a lot of the other stuff that people are doing. Again, he's trying the best he can, but this to me was more like a father-daughter dance at a wedding, the day of my daughter's wedding, than maybe something that necessarily popped.
I mean, I do think that, a waltz is a great spot for Eric to, a great type of dance for Eric to have here. They probably were thinking that there's a good chance that this could have been his final week. So to go out on something that doesn't require.
They shot their wad with going to the museum and showing his Oscar nomination. They did. Televised on the screen. This really felt like a big send off for him.
Yeah. And I'm a big Brit fan, so I'm very happy for her to be there. It was very funny to see in the moments of the results being given out. They announce Eric and Brit third of all the couples that they announce, and you're expecting to hear his name in the last, but they always will give you a surprise early on to be like, well, if it's not them, who's it going to be? And they got that spot this time. So Brit, you literally see her go like, what? Mouthing it like out loud, just couldn't hide her shocked reaction whatsoever. Probably also like, oh wow, I have to do this for 2 more weeks with somebody who can't move a whole lot. Eliza in the Facebook group pointed out, and Eliza seems like she's going to be our dance expert throughout the season.
Okay.
A lot of good insight onto some judging that's not from from a judge on the panel. She was talking about the rotation that's needed for the waltz is damn near impossible to achieve after a hip replacement, and just complimenting what Eric was able to do there. So yeah, I think on Eric's scale of what he can do, it's tough to say like what is the highest score they should go with it. I do think that at this point, especially early on, you should a 6 felt high. The 5s that he got last week were good. I wasn't upset with the 4 that Derek gave. I want to see the low paddles brought back. I said on Twitter, I was like, Derek must have listened to our podcast and heard us say, bring back the low paddles. We know they're in there somewhere. And look, I'm not saying crush his soul and give him a 2 or a 3, but like a 4 is fair if it's a 4.
If I'm Derek specifically, I have a great vantage point to the other 2. Am I sneaking a peek at my neighbor's seat, being like, if she's giving him a 6, let me try to average this thing out here. Yeah. I feel like the head judge sits in the center for a reason, not just from an aesthetic perspective, but also I think you get the little bit of the gauging of what's the lay of the land and how I can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, there was I saw someone tweet about this. I'm sorry, I can't remember who, but it was just saying about how Derek being in this middle spot. Obviously, Len used to be, the head judge spot in the middle spot. I don't even know if we're technically considering Derek as the head judge, but he's in that seat. Len was not afraid to give a low score and not care about your reaction to
right.
it.
That's what it wouldn't be 2000s American reality TV if we didn't have a talent show with like an older mean British man.
Which unfortunately, I don't know, like we don't have a mean person on the panel at this moment. Everybody is been very kind, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But Derek will at least, tip his hands to give some low scores when needed. So Eric is going to get that 4 there. But otherwise, a nice intro package for these two. Eric seems to be in good spirits and having a good time. Obviously, most of us predicted that he was going to end up going home this week, but no, he will have 2 dances, I believe, to learn over the next 2 weeks, and we'll see how that goes.
Eric Roberts on Soul Train. This is what dreams are made of.
We'll see how it goes. Up next, we have Danny Amendola and Whitney Carson. Danny is really being trained in the art of smiling. No, that's not a crack in your screen. I don't know what that is.
I was going to say, I was literally wiping something on my scrreen being like, what is this swooping across?
I have no idea. These images come from the Dancing with the Stars Instagram. No clue.
Yes. I mean, listen, Danny is all about game faces, right? Like he puts his head down, powers forward, catches the ball. That's what he did for years. So he's going to have to look up to the sky, Matt, in multiple ways, as this was, I think, one of the songs that really hit. Danger Zone, Top Gun, and this hit as well. I think would I project Danny to make the finale, maybe an outside chance, but I see him at least making like top 6. He is one of these prototypical cases of, because as a football player by nature, you have to be quick with your feet. He is able to showcase that like pretty effortlessly, especially the steps that they were doing towards the end of it. So yeah, I think eventually, as he starts to warm up a little bit, I'm sure they're going to have him doing goofy things eventually, especially once Halloween rolls around. I think he's in a very, very solid spot.
It's funny because, when you think about some of the athletes that come on, especially the handsome athletes, the very, very charming, handsome athletes that come on, I always think about like the crowd that is like my mom and that crowd. And I'm like, sometimes they fall in love with the handsome man that is, doing well enough in the competition. And they're like, I wonder if like Danny and like Joey are going to split the vote this season. And it doesn't end up working out for, I think, more likely Danny with that crowd, because Joey has a whole Bachelor Nation.
I was going to say, Joey came in with a fan base. Danny hasn't played in the NFL in, God, must be at least nearly 15 years. So I don't necessarily know how many Patriots fans from the Brady era are necessarily coming in being like, yep, we're following Danny Amendola wherever he goes. We will follow.
And, with all that said, the smile, we're really, really working on it between him and Anna. Like, it's a competition to see who can look the most upset while they're on the show. And I don't think Danny Amendola is having a bad time on the show. Maybe I could be wrong about that, but like, he's doing well. He is performing well. He is giving it his best. And, I feel like the judges are noticing that. What we saw this week with a lot of couples was the judges seem to be aware after the first week of who has it, who has the ability to do something beyond just like showing up for a week or two. And Danny is in that category. And that's like, they used this week as an opportunity to get a little bit harsher on them, just to be a little bit more technical, to say, we still have 8 weeks of competition ahead of us. We want you to be your best and listen to these specific things that we're saying.
No wonder Danny can't smile. He's got a freaking lacerated forehead that's just gushing blood from this picture.
You know what I'm guessing? It must have been like, whoever put these graphics together, they had it like on their phone before they uploaded. And when you hit like the draw feature on your iPhone, they accidentally drew a draw line, is what I'm guessing, because I didn't do it.
Yeah, but yeah, Danny's going to be one of the ones to also pull off a stunt that we'll see quite a few times tonight, which is the old jump over the head of your shorter partner. I really wish Dwight and Danny did this one. God. I think that would have been a very fun take on it.
Who's jumping over who?
Yeah, I think he just steps over her.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a jump. But Danny's talking a lot here about how his grandfather was in the military, and a lot of military shout outs here from Danny Amendola, with, of course, the very, straight face that he's got going on. But Whitney does plenty of like nudges and winks to get, the smiles going. And it seems like he's going to be in an okay spot, I think, for a couple of weeks.
Does he make it to Veterans Day is the question.
Ooh,
to bring up his grandfather once again.
I think so.
Yeah, when it's Veterans Day? November 11th. Oh, yeah, I could see that, because then that's probably going to be, like a couple weeks before the end. Yeah, I could definitely see him making it to, like, especially if they decide to go with a 5-person finale again for whatever reason, nearly half the cast, then yeah, Danny Amendola, you could definitely pencil him in for like final 8, final 7.
Yeah, I mean, that was new last season, right? Like to have that many people there at the end.
That was the first time they had 5 couples in the finale. They've been doing 4 for a long time now. I remember back in my day in season 2 of Dancing with the Stars, it was just Mario Lopez versus Emmett Smith in season 3.
Just 2 people, but they got some great dances because they would get like 3 dances a night, and there would be, those like the dances that not only would go viral for whatever that meant for that internet's time, but that just like you would see on every talk show for like the weeks to come of like name any of those dances. Crazy stuff back then. So that's that for these 2. We also, it's funny when Alfonso uses like the spot that they're running up the stairs to like make an announcement each time. So I'm like, where do I put these in my notes? But the announcement that he makes on Danny's run up the stairs was about how in the coming weeks, Derek Huff and his wife, Haley Erbert, are going to do a dance together for the first time since she had an emergency surgery a couple of months back. If anybody doesn't follow either of them on Instagram, you may not have seen this, but yeah, Haley Erbert, I think I'm saying her last name right. She used to be on the troupe for Dancing with the Stars. Her and Derek fell in love and have since gotten married. And she just had an emergency health scare that I think it might have been a surgery on her brain or somewhere in the head area. So scary stuff for them, but she seems to be doing well now. And I just know that dance is going to make me bawl. So
yeah, I don't know when it's coming though. I do love Alfonso doing like the church bulletin to just kind of fill time. And sometimes they have the troop step in to do like a little count of 16 or something. But yeah, him coming and being like, to the owner of the white Saab, you left your lights on in the parking lot. Just having him try to fill time. And that's also nice to have Julianne there as well. So he's not having to pull double duty. Though maybe that also would have helped of just like immediately then going to the couple and not having to worry about any sort of skybox situation.
Right. Let's get to our next couple. We have a hell of a lot to say, I'm sure, about one of our boots this week. One of the people who
one of our ankle bracelets.
One of the ankle bracelets to leave the competition, Anna Delvey, and unfortunately also to leave. That means Ezra Sosa, our new pro here, also leaving the competition on a week that they were dancing in theme of The Devil Wears Prada. Mike, where do we begin?
Oh my goodness. I mean, should we begin at the end? Should we begin with her sign-off line, which, they do a little bit of the hurry up at the end. Survivor, to your credit comparing, does at least have the final words and like the ceremony. And you feel like they send them off, you give them their time. The credits are rushing by at a bullet train's pace as everyone's like, okay, you're eliminated. What'd you think about Dancing with the Stars? Look, they try to provide an answer before the 11 o'clock news comes on. But Anna is able to make the most viral moment of the season so far, maybe of Dancing with the Stars in a couple of years, as Julianne asked what she learned most about herself doing Dancing with the Stars, to which she replies, nothing. And I think that's just really an encapsulation of Anna Delvey's short-lived stint on Dancing with the Stars, which has certainly, I think, opened up the internet wide, as it usually does, into, icebergian dissertations as to the regard with which we, look at criminals and privilege, etc., and the status of celebrity. I look at it at face value as just a freaking hilarious, entertaining moment and just an incredibly blunt set of final words in a show that is usually very sappy and very sweet and is just that hit of bitterness right at the end of it. And again, I think it represents her time very well, which is like cold and dry in a season and a show that is very warm and wet.
That's exactly how I described Dancing with the Stars.
A lot of sweat going on that dance floor, Matt.
The narrative that they had going on for the two of them coming into this of she's getting so many hate comments online. And I'm like, yeah, that's not because of Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, like, okay, this is, I would honestly not be surprised if that recording was taken from like their first week of practice before the season started of like, yeah, it's not about the fact that she's not a good dancer. It's from the fact that she is a criminal.
Yes.
And you cast her on your show.
And then it just got weirder, you know, later on where Carrie Ann's going to try to sympathize with her and be like, look, I know you're getting a lot of hate, but you're dancing beautifully. You have so much potential. I mean, you know, the conversation at large about Anna's inclusion on the show is a whole conversation. She was getting, I don't know if you saw any of this. She was getting into it with Maxim Shmerkovsky, who has a podcast. I think he does with his wife, Peta, talking about the show each week. And they were talking about like, Max was very upset.
Wow, who would have thought that? People complain all the time of like, oh, Survivor contestants do too many podcasts once they get off. But like, look at these Dancing with the Stars pros: right. Cheryl Burke, Max, Peta.
Yeah. I was also surprised to see Max have a correct opinion on this because I don't know that he always has correct opinions in my book. But he was talking about, you know, this was a weird casting spot. There's so many celebrities out there that, you know, would love to do this show. We're talking about you, Sheena Shea. You know, we're trying to get you the spot, but Anna Delvey took it. And just, you know, giving her a platform and whatnot, and all the conversations that, you know, we've had last week, and everybody that's aware of Anna Delvey being on the show is like, you know, thinking about in one way or another. So, but then she was firing back at him, just kind of saying like that she was like, who are you? Your opinions are relevant. I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, we are talking about Max. That's fine. This was, again, all weird. The fact that not only was everything with all the comments that she's been getting being highlighted, but just she did not want to be there.
Yeah.
From the moment she signed up, and by she signed up, I mean her PR person signed her up.
That's the thing, is that every single answer that she gives, that yes, of course, nothing is the goal. I think the silver, though, in this episode was, what's been the most difficult part of dancing? Jumping around? Like, she has incredible responses to these questions, but it absolutely gives, I have no idea what I signed up for. My PR team did it saying it would be a good decision. It was not.
It's almost like you can imagine her PR team standing 10 feet away from her, and quickly they just jot down on a piece of paper, jumping around, and they hold it up. What's the hardest part of dancing? Jumping around? What did you learn about yourself out here? Nothing. I don't know. Maybe it is just in her head that all these answers come out of. It probably is, but that's just still absolutely insane, the way that she wasn't hiding it for a second. I feel so bad for Ezra. This is, you know, he's been on the troupe for a couple of seasons. People have been so hyped to see him finally get a partner. And, you know, I think Brandon was talking about sometimes you get a little bit of an initiation in your first season or two.
Yeah, that's hazing.
Yeah, just like getting put with a partner who's never going to go very far into the season, you know, let alone out of the first episode or two.
So I think it's also a matter of the other male pros are so seasoned that there is no way that they are going to agree to work with her.
No, I mean, you're not going to now with Anna Delvey.
And it's like, yeah, okay, we're going to throw her onto the newbie who basically has to say yes or he's not on the show. So unfortunately, it's really exploiting that power dynamic a bit. And yeah, I mean, part of the comedy of Anna's time on the show was also Ezra's reaction to everything. I even saw an interview afterwards where someone asked, like, what was your favorite part of Dancing with the Stars? She goes, getting eliminated. He's like, oh, you mean working with me? And it's just like, you could see, I think, a little bit of resolve setting in on his face eventually in these postseason interviews of like, all right, unfortunately your time on the show was short-lived, but that also means you get to increasingly distance yourself from this person and not have to be on national TV being like, no, you're definitely a good person. I'm not going to make eyes to the camera, blinking in Morse code, saying, help me.
Get me out of here.
I'm being held against my will for a paycheck, much like you are, Anna Delvey. Maybe that's how we're so alike, you and I.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt for Ezra. He obviously, you know, was doing everything he could, you know, given like a little nudge, same way that Whitney was, but like to an even more dramatic extent of being like, come on, smile. Like, oh, you don't mean that. Ha, ha, ha. We're all in on the joke. At the end of the episode, when she says what she says, when she says nothing, Alfonso realizes what she says. And he's like, you don't mean that. You had fun. And Julianne's like, yeah, you had fun. Like, obviously, if they can run over the thing that she just said with some jokes and laughter and not make everybody feel awkward about it, they're doing their jobs right. right, but it was just insane.
Yeah, if they turn it into a laugh line, which I think a lot of people have also postulated that like what Anna says is purposely funny, people just don't pick up on that humor. In this case, they almost overdid it. Like, almost like, in a comedy when they do like a final zinger and then they all freeze frame on all of them laughing. That's what they were trying to do in the moment as they were panic spiraling from Anna Delvey being like, I had an absolutely miserable time. Prison was better than Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm. And her dancing itself, maybe this was a little bit of an improvement this week over last week. The scores reflected that at least she got 1 point higher than last week. And the comments were all about, we still think you're strange and a mysterious person, but like we're starting to see you a little bit more. So, obviously that just stops here because there is no more dancing for her after this. And shout out to Bruno, who, is representing all of us not movie buffs out there who, when he's trying to talk about The Devil Wears Prada, mentions that Amanda herself would approve. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, Amanda, the lead character. And then apparently he was talking about Miranda. Shout out to Bruno. I appreciated it.
Also, we know that Miranda would never approve of anything. Miranda actually, maybe she would see herself a bit in Anna Delvey, who is also a bit like cold and manipulative.
I'll take your word for it.
Have you never seen The Devil Wears Prada?
I don't watch movies. I do have a fiance that's working on this, but
you need to see The Devil Wears Prada.
Talk to Jofo.
All right, I'm gonna put in in
he's
here.
Got a list.
It's a classic. It's turned like 20 years old. So
all right, let's talk about our next couple here. The stars of the show, the front runners, determined by scores last week and also by them. We have Chandler and Brandon.
Could she be any better at this?
I know. Now, what do you think of what we were talking about last week a little bit? We were saying that we have worries about the two of them because maybe there's not enough star power to get the votes behind them. They're going to be a couple, I feel like, that obviously are showing how good they are, but are going to need to consistently show how good they are to win over specifically Dancing with the Stars fans. Because again, I don't know if either one of these individual people just come in with that fan base.
Oh, well, first off, I thought you said that you were worried for them because Chandler's show recently got canceled. I believe the Pretty Little Liars spinoff prequel, I'm not sure.
I thought you were going to say that I was worried about her because we found out recently something about she's someone she's related to.
Oh, yeah. So she's DJ Showtime's cousin, I hear. The streets are saying.
I have no further comment. More on that on the slop.
See if their game will be as long, simmering, and hot as a crock pot meal. Yeah, I mean, look, it certainly is a concern that I think Chandler, Kinney, I'd say her and Brooks definitely had the lowest Q rating in terms of popularity going into this season. That being said, we had someone in Xochitl Gomez who was in a Marvel movie, but listen, I would say, especially when you talk about 2023 Marvel, MCU fans are not necessarily coming out of the woodwork to stan en masse. And she was able to overcome that. The issue I think Chandler might face is that, I feel like Xochitl's biggest competition there was someone like Ariana, who had the skills as well as a pretty big fan base, but I also think comparatively, as virulent for many reasons as Vanderpump is, it gets a fairly small audience size compared to a lot of stuff that's on regular broadcast TV. And so from that perspective, I do feel like Chandler's competition is probably someone like a Joey, who sort of has this right combination of is getting good scores and has this huge audience that just watched him and is ready to come in and vote for him at the push of a dial. And so I am forecasting right now, and maybe it's lowered expectations being the key to happiness, but I could see Chandler getting to second or third place and then not winning in the end. Sort of again, maybe it's on my mind because it was the season I covered, Normani lost to Rashad Jennings. She came in third place, even though she was the most talented person on there. And so I could see that. I mean, hell, I think that was the season I covered. Heather Morris from Glee, your beloved Glee, Matt, was on, and we thought she was a ringer, and she was eliminated in seventh place.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, and maybe, it wouldn't be the case now, because now after the whole Bobby Bones fiasco, they actually really weight the judges' scores in. But it goes to show that, if you're not necessarily attracting the people to your name as you want to, and if your pro isn't as well, it's a really tough sledding. But hey, for as long as they're going to be here, I'm going to love the dances they're doing because I might say that Chandler looked better than even some of the pros last night.
I mean, that's Derek was literally like, I might have more notes for Brandon than I do for you, and like he was happy to take that. I was like, not too much on Brandon. This man has been working his butt off for the past couple seasons, and he's had some decent partners, but also a couple of clunkers along the way. But speaking to your last point, Sean McHale was asking about the judges' save that we also talked about last week, and the fact that it's been gone for a while. It's couples like this that I want it back for. I had not one issue with the fact that existed, because I don't think it went all the way throughout the entire season, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I feel like it stopped at a certain point, and then like obviously they weren't going to have the judges save on like finale night. But just like to make sure that at a certain point, like I'm glad Reginald stayed in for another week. Everybody's loving to watch him back on their television screens for as long as possible. Eric Roberts, same kind of deal. But at a certain point in the competition, we're all going to say, okay, we do want to see the best possible dances every night. So it would be nice to have that back at a certain point, but they got rid of it, so I don't think it's going to be back.
Yeah, I think it's something that they want to keep relatively in control, especially with all these weeks now where it's like, okay, we're not going to have an elimination on the first night. We're going to cram these 2 nights together, and we don't know if it's going to be 2 eliminations or 1. Feels like they want to pretty much railroad the structure of the season, and they don't want to have to necessarily work with the additional wild card of, okay, there might be a week where it's another non-elimination on top of it.
Right. So Chandler and Brandon, again, did fantastic, got some great comments from the judges yet again. And 47 out of 60 is their total score for the 2 weeks combined at the very top of the leaderboard. So, she showed Julianne her hand, being very shaky as she gets up there. She's got a little bit of nerves going, but she has no reason to be nervous. She is obviously fantastic and will continue to be a front runner all the way throughout the season. She had a great dance this week.
I am disappointed, though, as I mentioned before, that they used What Was I Made For. I feel like, again, you say this for a freestyle down the line, and I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if they did a dance to I'm Just Ken? Like, pull that song from the Barbie. If you're trying to go for something mimetic from the biggest box office smash last year, I think that'd be very fun to do a sincere, what dance do they do? Like a rumba or a waltz to I'm Just Ken.
I guess like that would have been like a Joey dance more than a Chandler dance, but they could have swapped movies. I don't think this was a week where they were like,
I didn't realize there was a Joey and a Chandler on this season.
Yeah, I watched Friends. I did not. So, all right, let's get to the next couple here. We got a lot more couples to get through. We have Reginald and Emma, and as just kind of was mentioning, very happy that all of us that are so happy to see, one of the best TV dads of all time back on our screen. We get more time with him back on our screen, where he has been such a joy. Like the dancing, we see it. We know what the dancing has been.
In fact, it was an ode to joy.
That is true. First time we've had a Beethoven song on whatever you call it, on Dancing with the Stars.
I mean, it is a song.
It is a song, right? But I feel like there's better words, like ballad, maybe. I mean,
it's a Beethoven number 5. Like it's a piece, I would say.
Piece. That's a good word. Song.
Yeah.
You think he was like writing the songs in a songbook?
Maybe this is another thing again of the show kind of prognosticating how they think it would do. Of like, they pulled the Die Hard trigger now, much like Reginald's character does at the end of Die Hard when the terrorists are walking out of Nakatomi Plaza. Spoiler alert, of like, okay, this is arguably his most famous role besides Family Matters. We're going to bring it up right here, right now. Did you see, I think it's Emma posted a video on Instagram of Reginald as a cop that culminated in him arresting Anna Delvey?
I did not, but I did see a tweet that said Anna Delvey is probably running scared because a cop car is in the middle of the ballroom.
She's not running or scared.
Well,
there's one emotion at all times.
Well,
yeah. I mean, it was, again, it felt very much like a swan song of like, okay, we're going to commemorate this character. And yeah, I mean, he says it in his package, right? Like, now I'm on Dancing with the Stars and can't move. And again, maybe I'm memory holding this. I'm trying to remember if like, there was something physical with him that basically has made him the Tin Man prior to the oil can, because it seems like he said he was on Broadway. We saw some archival footage. Like, he seemed pretty light on his feet. And for whatever reason, it's like 2 tree trunks down there.
No, I don't think there was anything specific. I think it was just that he is 72 years old. I think was what it boiled down to for them, unless I'm forgetting something as well. But like, this is again where Carrie Ann is going to bring up, everybody has their own personal 10. I know what a 10 is going to look like for you. And I don't know basically if he's ever going to actually see that number on a paddle.
Yeah, she said baby stepping his way to a 10, which goes
that,
along with literally during one of the routine, he was marching for a count of 8, which is like 3rd grade American Flag Day pageant style choreography.
So, the judges are obviously giving him his flowers in the sense of like, you're an American treasure. We are so happy to have you here. We are so happy to be graced with your presence in our ballroom and on our show for as long as we can justify it. So we'll see how this continues to go. But, I don't know. I guess controversy this week is them also getting a 4, right? Eric got one too. They got a 4 here. So going with those low paddles is really going to get people's gears grinded.
Who do you think is going to be the one to go first? Reginald,
I think it has to be
Eric?
I think it has to be Eric.
You think so? You think Reginald has enough love on his side? I mean, we find out from Tori that nostalgia can only get you so far.
Yeah, true. No, I do think that Reginald is going to go farther. I don't know how far that is. Look, we've seen plenty of people that,
baby steps.
Baby steps. We've seen plenty of people that aren't the best or should have gone home week 1, week 2, make it to like a 5-6 meet. We've almost seen them win. So I feel like, I don't know, I could see him getting in another, like, honestly 2 weeks, if not probably 2 weeks is my cap.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see like Eric going next, and maybe we get like a quote unquote shock like Jenn boot after that, and then maybe it's Reginald's time.
I unfortunately might be with you on the Jenn shock boot. I don't know if it'll be a shock at this point, though, if we're both predicting it. So we'll see about that. Let's move along to our next couple. We have Steven and Riley, another group of front runners here, another pair of front runners looking into this competition. The Superman theme song makes its way to the Dancing with the Stars ballroom.
Yeah, so he explained this a little bit. It does make sense considering that among the many things, that brief 3-day window where he went absolutely viral, it was the fact that during that pommel horse routine, before he did it, he took off his glasses. And also the fact that he is obviously for his job very jacked. People were making sort of the Clark Kent Superman comparison. And so, yeah, they decide to do a dance, a Paso Doble to the Superman theme.
And that's, one of the things that I think really gets highlighted with a lot of the different celebrities on this show this season is a lot of them are having a hard time putting their face into the performance. And, we talked about the people that maybe just aren't smiling enough, but there's people like Steven that they're also trying to work on and say, look, your whole entire thing here is a performance. It's all theater. It's a dance, but you also have to tell a story through your face. And Steven is just like happy to be there, smiley guy, like doing the dance. And I think it was Derek maybe that was like, you're powering through this, you're going, but you do need to kind of like reel yourself in a little bit, absorb within the dance that you're being given, follow Riley's lead, and make sure that your face tells the story of what you're saying in the dance.
Yeah, that's the thing. This dude is freaking Ricochet Rabbit. He is energy incarnate. And first off, I love it. Steve Smith from American Dad finally being personified and getting some love in the form of this Olympian. And I really enjoyed his routine last week. Was a little sloppy, yeah, but I think especially on the graded spectrum of first dances, debuts on the dance floor, I think he did a really good job with it. And I very much sympathize, as someone who is very high energy, pep, etc. When it's time to try to like get down low and get serious, it's not as great. It's tough to keep up that sobriety in the face of so much joviality around you. And so, the two of them are just adorable together. And I don't think he did a bad job at all, especially pulling off impressive things like the aforementioned Graziadei, like the little knee turns that are just so impossible to do and seem like, like basically Eric and Reginald would like crack in half by merely the thought of that. But it's this weird thing that I was observing where like he is both lighter than air, but also a little lead-footed, where like it seemed like he was jumping all over the place, but it almost seemed like there was weight to his jump. Like it wasn't like he was floating through the air and landing, with a feather touch. It was just like, don't. No.
I think, with him and with a couple of the other couples that we, again, were talking about, they're trying to fix them on a very technical level of things that just to make them, more perfect as the weeks go on. I think he is somebody who will absolutely be able to adapt to a lot of the things that they throw at him. And an issue like that, I think he will figure out. He is just, he can be very light on his feet. And I feel like he's going to adapt to pretty much any dance that comes his way in the coming weeks. And I pretty much have it down to the two of them or Chandler and Brandon being like the first to get, 9s, let alone 10s as the weeks go on. So
I think they just have to find the right routine, but I think they have such a great energy. They have with maybe one exception, one of the best chemistries for a couple as well. And that they really feed into each other. He is such a likable presence as well that I think you could absolutely slot them in for finale night, barring them just going on an absolute skid where, he gets a case of the yips or something. Did you like the Superman reveal outfit, Matt? Did you like, should that have been the costumes or the outfits that the Olympic athletes wore in the big parade that welcomed them in at the opening ceremony?
They might as well. It's funny because, I get the reference after all was said and done with, the reveal taking off the suit jacket and whatnot. But even in the whole way through up until his performance, he's wearing the suit jacket and you're just wondering what is underneath. And then emerges these bright red suits, sleeveless vest with the American flag on there and whatnot. And, it was very much giving Olympics with the stars as is the season.
I mean, this is the other thing as well with Dancing with the Stars is look, we're at the level of celebrity where we cast people that are known mimetically or reference-wise to one, maybe two things. And with Reginald, we've kind of expended it. He'll have to dance to the Family Matters theme song and that's it. And we've done it with Steven as well. We did the Rubik's Cube last time with the pattern on the wall. And now we did Superman. So now it's wide open for us to actually get to know the man behind the meme and get to love him even more.
Yeah, there was a question as well about, let me see if I can find it again. Sarah was asking, who has the most potential to get the Dancing with the Stars postseason bump? My answer is Steven. I think that not only did he obviously already get a nice bump in awareness of his existence and popularity through the meme, through the Olympics, but I think that this is absolutely going to keep it going. A whole new audience is going to fall in love with him consistently over the course of these 3 months. And I feel like he is not going anywhere after the show's over.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would agree. I'm just wondering, what's the pipeline? Ariana went to Broadway. I don't know if Stephen Nedoroscik is necessarily doing it. There might be someone else that I would say would get the bump because the bump to me implies a sort of decline into obscurity than a bump into getting hired again. Steven is more so on an increasing line. He was sort of in this level where he was a huge unknown, pops onto the scene 2 months ago, absolutely takes off like a rocket and is now showing a different side of himself that I do wonder if this didn't happen, what he would have been booked for in the following months.
All it takes is a good PR agent tell you what your next step is, and you follow along. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but a lot of the times it does. Our next couple here is our Bachelor, Joey and his partner Jenna. They are dancing to "Shallow," Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper from A Star Is Born.
And I love this as well.
Yesterday.
Yeah, that there has been some mishigas in the week in between about oh, these two are getting a little too close for comfort to the point that Joey's fiance, Kelsey, had to go on to TikTok and was yeah, that's her job. Her job is to be intimate with her dance partner, aka my fiance.
Right.
Did not help when they're for inspiration, let us look to the footage of Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga performing at the Oscars. The voluminous response to which was, are they effing? They've got to be effing, right? They're way too close for comfort.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, dance is not always is, but dance definitely can be very intimate. And a lot of the dances required throughout the entire season are that. And we've seen this many times before with many couples that have a hard time just getting to that point of being ready to let their guard down or show that kind of intimacy with somebody who is not their partner, especially when they either already have a partner, their partner already has a partner. And that's the case with both of these people. Joey, obviously, Kelsey's watching in the audience every week. And Jenna is married to the guy that's, over here with another partner dancing.
Yeah, quite literally, Mr. Steal Your Girl when he comes in and shows Joey, like, this is how you feel at my wife.
So, it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is a lot with the partnerships that, some come more naturally than others. And some, it's easier when, your partner is like 3 feet taller. It's like hard to be actually intimate than, with that kind of couple. So there's all different obstacles.
Maybe more so depending on what's that eye level, if you catch my drift.
So
don't need to worry about knee walks on that.
This was, I thought, another good performance from Joey and Jenna. They get a consistent across the board 7s, and can't complain with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, again, much like we've seen from others, and we'll talk about again with Dwight, like a slower dance. You contrast the faster dance, where obviously, like, he very much showed off how good he is at the steps. Here was much more about the holds, and again, that passion and acting in a way. And again, it's interesting. You talk about vulnerability, and who better to showcase that than somebody who dated 29 women and let America into his heart for a few months in the form of Joey. So I think it actually is more par for the course, even if it does require a bit more acting than maybe he is used to for a reality TV star. But yeah, I gotta say, he is really impressive. Like, the shapes that they're making are really, really nice. Even the small notes that he's getting in week 2, he's only getting like, yeah, put your arm here instead of here and open up your back muscles. Like, I feel like those are technical notes that even a regular celebrity might get like week 5 or week 6. You can tell very early on that they're going to have a lot of issues finding things to critique him about. Yeah. I did love Bruno's name for him of Mr. Slinky Silky.
Yeah. I mean, Bruno is looking where everybody's looking as well. They have not closed this man's shirt once.
No. I mean, listen, they know what they're doing. Yes, television has gone racier, but we're still at the 8 o'clock hour. Disney Plus simulcast, kids are still watching. So, like, be tasteful, but maybe flag a little bit of what might, lurk beneath the shallows.
So this couple's going to go far. I think the judges are aware of it. These two are obviously, good chemistry as a dancing couple. Don't worry.
Yes, a platonic dancing couple.
So they got one of their 8s they were looking for this week. They have a pretty good showing with back-to-back weeks of 43 out of 60. And obviously not in the bottom 3. Well, whatever the bottom 3 actually means, because it's not actually a bottom 3.
Yeah, no, how do you feel about that? Do you feel... So the show got rid of it a while ago. Do you think it was too much showing their hand, basically setting up like, well, this couple's probably going to go next because they finished in 3rd or 2nd to last?
It's all for suspense, right? Because like you would think in that final 3 or in the bottom 3 that we got, that actually isn't the bottom 3, that you're like, oh, obviously Reginald's going to go. So which of these other 2 couples are going? When you can see past the tricks of the editors, that Reginald is definitely the one staying of all these couples at that point. So they use that spot just as the, big surprise moment.
Yeah, it basically is like when they used to do the key wheel on Big Brother, and it's like, can you arrange the keys in a way that makes it feel fun and climactic, or is it like, yeah, probably the renom target is going to be the last person who gets their key drawn to really signify, yeah, you're on the bottom and you're going up if the veto gets used.
Right. Up next, the woman of the hour, the ready to send anyone home. Phaedra Parks and Val, and they are performing in tribute to Dreamgirls, specifically, and I'm telling you I'm not going. Another one that I liked. I feel like there is potential within Phaedra. Do you think that Phaedra will go the farthest of any housewife so far? As she joked about, I always try to get out here to watch them perform, but they're always gone before I can get on the flight to do so.
I was going to say, a bit of a low bar to clear, Matt. No, I think maybe some people have done better than others. Yeah, I think Phaedra will do well. Like, she has the capacity to move. I will say I was a little more down on her performance this week than last week. Maybe just last week, I was sort of mystified by the entire notion of it, that this woman who I fell in love with by watching her on The Traitors earlier this year is now on freaking Dancing with the Stars. I think her and Val are also like the perfect matches for each other, considering that like he has enough confidence in himself, I think, to be able to match her energy level and the behavior and personality that she is bringing. They're able to both be like kind of combative to each other, but also playful at the same time. I do feel like this week it felt a little bit like the dances we sometimes see where it's a lot of Val moving around and not a lot of Phaedra moving around. I'd like to see her be a little bit more mobile, especially because we saw her kind of shake those hips so well in the first week that I was a little disappointed to see it kind of scaled back in the second week. All that said, yeah, I think she's going to do really well. And I was excited about that comment too, because listen, I know that Phaedra technically comes from a non-competition reality show, but she really rose to fame being on a competition reality show in the form of The Traitors. And it is so, so rare, Matt, that we have people from competition reality shows on talent shows like
Very
this.
much
And
so.
I love her bringing that attitude of like, listen, the goal of the game is to be the last one standing, so people got to start sitting down, Bruno.
Because we've had so many Dancing with the Stars cast members make the way to Big Brother.
Yes, exactly.
But I don't think we have, since Big Brother Celebrity has existed, had anyone do the jump in the opposite direction, unless I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't think so. So to see Phaedra, like you said, just hop right off the Traitors and come on over here and just kind of use that same mentality to get through this game. Like, we don't ever see Dancing with the Stars presented as, people playing the game. You don't have alliances. That's not a thing that's possible. Like, it's literally not possible. Like Amazing Race, at some point they were like, oh, we can figure out how to play this, with each other and whatnot. That's not possible here. It's fan votes. I mean, sure, you can hop on TikTok lives with certain other couples and try to increase your popularity. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a way to get more people invested in you and another couple. Something like that. But as far as just like being focused on the competition as if it is a game, and I know she was kind of joking, but also it's Phaedra, so she's kind of not, was just funny to see her in that aspect. Usually everybody else in the ballroom is, oh, we're such a family, we all love each other, and Phaedra's like, whoever's gotta go, which
is also the housewife attitude as well.
Yes.
Right, that like friends for the cameras, but once any electronics are out of our way, then the real feelings come out.
Right. So, and she was pretty much, she was talking a lot about performing this one for her grandmother, and carrying, lets her know how her grandmother, will be so proud of her and whatnot. And it was a nice one. I think we'll see some more fun stuff from Phaedra going forward.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think she's going to be someone that, if we're talking about needing to get Danny to loosen up, she is someone that will absolutely lean into whatever bits are being thrown their way every single season. And that's why Val's great as well. It's because, like, Val knows what you get when you end up joining up with Dancing with the Stars. You're going to wear ridiculous outfits, dancing to songs that don't make sense. And I think Phaedra's here for the tomfoolery.
Agreed. All right. Up next, we have Tori Spelling and Pasha. We are going to be talking about one of the couples that is leaving the ballroom this week. Now, I will say, as we were getting to the results, I'm trying to think about who to make a bold call on who could be leaving. And I'm like, Tori could be leaving very soon, but I don't think it's this week. I was like, in my heart of hearts, I was thinking that I was just so convinced that, one of the older gentlemen would be leaving this week and that Tori's probably next week or the week after. Turns out it was just a lot sooner. You were talking about some of her fellow co-stars that have also not made it very far. It's just, I guess the fandom has not persisted.
Yeah, Shannon Doherty, I think, also didn't make it very far. Just isn't a direct crossover. I guess they're too loyal to Fox or WB or whatever it aired on, and that spelled the doom of Spelling. But, I mean, this is the thing, though. What's fun is, again, we talk about how maybe it felt like the tone behind Eric's dances and Reginald's dances were a bit of a send-off, and it wasn't. Tori's, in hindsight, was actually set up as a really nice send-off, where, again, she seemed a little out of her element, very eager, but a little out of her element last week. And this week, she's like, gets to perform this song that means so much to her, to the extent that, like, she is singing the song probably full-throated as she is dancing alongside Pasha. She says that the greatest showman and helped her daughters believe in themselves and, fight against bullying. To that, I would say, just don't look up the biography of P.T. Barnum at all. He's not a paragon to look ahead to, even if he is played by hunky, talented Hugh Jackman. But this was really sweet. Sweet with a spin as well, as I'm sure poor Tori's head is probably still spinning to this day from Pasha just like grabbing her and whipping her around like one of those merry-go-rounds at the park.
Yeah. Brutal for Tori Spelling that she did deny the call for so many years just to show up here and go out first. But that's how it goes sometimes. It's not necessarily, it's not like, you know, we lost a big contender just because, you know, she didn't have the strongest fan base. We lost a medium contender that was probably always, you know, had a cap like going to the mid-season. So, you know, the fact that she ends up going first here sucks for her, because you could tell that at this point in her life, she really did want to be here. Her kids were all there watching her. Like, you know, I don't know if her kids were showing up every week. I mean, if they were, then I guess they would have been there regardless when she got eliminated. But to have it happen this early on, I did feel for her, because like you said, she really seemed to have a connection to the song. I mean, that was the first thing that the judges were paying attention to when it was time to talk to her about, like, look, we get it. You like this song. I like this song. The song is great. Greatest Showman's pretty good. And it's a good one to belt out. And that's what Tori Spelling was going to do when she hit that dance floor. As far as the dance itself was concerned, you know, she gets a 7, a 6, and a 6, going from left to right there.
Yeah,
and
so she went out with her head held high. You know, she ended up getting a 7 from the judges, which again, some of our bottom feeders might dream of in the end. So listen, it was unfortunately a short time on the show, but it was a good time though. I don't think Tori necessarily regrets it. I think, unfortunately, you know, she's going through some things in her personal life that are a little rough, that maybe having the opportunity to hyper focus on being the expert of ballroom dance every week would have helped. But I would not be surprised if she ends up like showing up in the studio audience a couple weeks later, supporting everybody. She just seems like she was really eager to be there. And I think, especially in contrast to the other celebrities she was eliminated alongside, it was very fun to watch.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I wanted to mention, if anybody is jumping into a Dancing with the Stars season with us for the first time, just to follow along. As far as the pros go, when they their partners get eliminated, you will still see Pasha around. You will still see the other who got eliminated.
Ezra. Ezra's going right back to the troop, baby.
Ezra goes right back to the troop. His sister's in the troop now, as of this season, so he'll be there with them. Pasha will be around as well. It's they always like have them also like jump into other dances with other couples.
If somebody ends up getting sick or getting injured in terms of the pros, then another pro will sort of swing in for that week as their substitute. So there's sort of like a group of swings and understudies that also have their own little things that they're doing every week.
Right. So these pros, when they sign up, they're pretty much there for the full season, even if they're not actively with a partner for the entire season. So that's Tori and Pasha. You know, when Tori is getting her exit interview in the 2 seconds before Anna delivers her much more iconic lines there, you know, just a nice little send off to, you know, she's very thankful that she had the opportunity. Her family's here.
She said she's never going to leave.
She did say that. You know, she may have to, but it's a nice sentiment to think that she wanted to be there so badly that she would just hide out in the studio.
Yeah, listen, she gets she's like, great, you can't hear the band from here, so it's perfect noise canceling.
Up next, we have Dwight and Daniela.
I can with this picture.
Yes.
How many apple boxes do you think are stacked up right here?
There is only one box, but in the full version of this picture, it is a very tall box, as you can imagine. The height difference between these two is obviously you can't not notice it. Do you honestly, like, I was having questions about, should production have allowed this to happen? I'm not saying I guess.
I mean, they different question. They made it happen.
Different question that they had Dwight Howard on the show amidst some of the controversy that Sasha was talking about last week. But also, like, there's got to be at least one pro taller than Daniela, right? Like, just a couple of inches would have helped.
Oh, yeah, it's the image. It's the haha tall man, short woman. I mean, it worked for Danny once before as well.
It did.
And Dwight is even taller. And, you know, they even lampooned it a bit last week. But I think even that is Danny being a bit tongue in cheek, being like, really? You give me this shit again? That being said, she might be my favorite pro, because she's about
so good.
Making a freaking meal out of being given expired food. Of like, hey, you're going to be given a partner who is several heads taller than you, and you have to do a ballroom hold. And when I saw the pre-tape, and they're like, okay, instead we're going to grab forearms like we're in, you know, the climax of Cliffhanger, and we're trying to make sure we don't fall off the mountain. I was like, all right, this is going to look so incredibly awkward, but I got to give it to Danny, and I got to give it to Dwight as well. They made it look effortless. They made it look like a legitimate ballroom hold, despite the fact that they're like almost pandemic style, trying to not be terribly close to each other, to not spread germs. But I think it was just the attitude and especially the smoothness behind the moves that you basically forgot about it as soon as they went into the dance itself.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of things that they will be able to do. This dance specifically had, where he's holding on to her and spinning her around a little bit in like a very beautiful, swift motion that like will take you out of any of the other things that you're thinking about before you get to that point. Because Daniela, like you said, is one of the most intelligent, most like incredible choreographers that this show has. Go watch some of the things that she did in her winning season a couple seasons ago. And I feel like there's no reason for me to think that she won't be able to recreate a lot of those, in this season. She already has started to get to that point. And, Carrie Ann's giving her comments saying that they made the impossible possible. Basically, like all of them are aware of the challenge that they're going to have, but saying, you two will find a way. Daniela, you will find a way.
Yeah. And so I'm also glad that, again, they were able to ebb back from the quick beats last time, just so then they can also not beat into the ground the jokes about her being so much shorter than him. I'm sure that's going to come out, sooner rather than later. But I will say I was a little confused initially. I'm glad they did point out that he like missed a step, because like the way he was walking initially before they went into the hold, it almost looked like they were like holding hands, skipping down the lane instead of dancing. And it just really set me up to say, oh, this is going to be an abject failure of an experiment. But it was a success. And I think this is the biggest hurdle they had to get over. They did it in week 2. And honestly, right now, if I had to call my shot, sink that 3, I would say that it's going, Chandler has the most skills, but it's probably going to be one of either Joey or Dwight who ends up taking it.
Joey or Dwight, huh?
I think that there's enough NBA fans that obviously we saw the case. Like, I guess the only thing working against Dwight would be that we just saw this happen with Iman, and we'll see if lightning can strike twice. But like, the fact that they have this underdog story, that they are this quite literally mismatched couple, the fact that they are impressing people, and the fact that I would imagine there is a hefty NBA crowd that is checking out what they have to do. I think they are at least slotted in for finale night, and I think they stand a good chance from like a popularity perspective of possibly taking it if they continue on this trajectory.
I mean, between your 2 picks, Joey and Dwight, and I think between my picks of Chandler and Steven, I think we have the winner somewhere in there. There's a good chance. But yeah, there was another good performance with these two. The high five in the beginning before they even got started, where she has to jump up in the air to reach his hand. Funny. And, they also were doing some of that with Pasha had to come into the rehearsal to like demonstrate with Daniela. Daniela and Pasha, by the way, married, for anybody not in on all the lore. So he shows up to be like, well, this is what it's supposed to look like with people that are the same height. So we have to find a way to get you guys to do that where you're very different.
The good news is he'll have many more times to model that hold, considering that
Pasha's free.
he's got a lot of free time. I will also say, City of Stars. Listen, I love Pasek and Paul. I'm a friend of Justin Paul, a recent EGOT winner. Pasek and Paul do not like City of Stars. I would have loved Emma Stone's big solo number from La La Land instead as the song that they danced to. I think it's just a little too much like Ryan Gosling mumble porn of a song to dance to.
And you also wanted I'm Just Ken in the same episode.
I would have just loved as much Ryan Gosling as possible, personally.
Dancing with the Stars, we had a Taylor Swift episode last season. This time we do a Ryan Gosling episode. That would be
listen,
be great.
Disney Connection, Mickey Mouse Club.
There you go. Also, and then at the very end, she's like asking, Julianne's asking Dwight what he thinks about Daniela so far. And he's like, I tell her she's perfect. I'm like, her husband's right there. Relax. But
and then Derek's like, Dwight, you're perfect. And Haley's like, I'm right here too. Stop all these love polygons happening. Speaking of
whoa, transition. Brooks and Gleb. Now, so here's the thing. Randy was asking, I don't know if it was him or somebody else mentioned this last week as well.
I just love the graphic that the way it's formatted says like 9 to 5, 9 to 5. That's the way it needs to be.
Randy asks, is Gleb's only strategy to act as though him and his partner are doing it? Spoiler.
To which I say, act?
Act. All right. Randy says, spoiler, yes, he does this every season. Now, my thing about Gleb is that maybe it's just his partners in the past I haven't been super paying close attention to, or Gleb himself, I just haven't been paying super close attention to. So this is honestly, even though I've watched so many seasons with this man, I don't have a memory of this happening in the past. I'm taking all your words for it.
Oh yeah, so let me read back some of the people that he was with. Well, first off, speaking of Ariana, his first partner ever was Lisa Vanderpump in season 16.
And then I think that was his only season for a little while. So it went that poorly.
And then he basically has done like every season from 23 to 33. But some other people, Erica Jane, speaking of housewives. Let's see. We have Nikki Glazer, comedian. I believe they were eliminated first. Lauren Elena, country star. That was the first time they made the finale. So he was partners with Chrishell from Selling Sunset, but wasn't that whole big thing that she was actually with Keo instead of Gleb?
Oh, I don't remember this.
Oh yeah, Chrishell and Keo, they were dating while they were on the season. They were canoodling. Mel C from the Spice Girls, I do not think that was the case. Shangela, for many reasons, I do not think that was the case. And then Mira Sorvino, I don't think that was the case.
So it probably has happened twice, at least before, with the list of names. 3,
yeah, I think it's happened with other people, like, Brian Austin Green and Sharna, right?
Yes, yeah. But this one, is it real? It looks real. It seems real.
Here's the thing. Yeah, again, that's why I say act, because we have this random shot of her, like, giving him a little peck in the rehearsal room, and then social media, and I don't know who the hell this is, but someone got a shot from assumingly a ceiling tiles perspective of Gleb and Brooks, like, at the mirror, getting ready to either go on or having just, come from the dance, and they are kissing.
I mean, that's the gamer Vev of Dancing with the Stars. Like, somebody got that to the right person and got it out there. It is quite it's not like the most intriguing video out there. You can just go see the two of them share a kiss, but when you're looking for the scandal of the Dancing with the Stars season, it's not even a scandal. It's just these two are very obviously into each other, and if this is
we've all seen Strictly Ballroom except for Matt. We all know that, as you've talked about, Ballroom is a very intense, emotionally charged relationship that has you trusting in your partner, much like any good romantic pairing does.
Yeah. It was funny. Bruno's like, I can tell you put a lot of overtime into this. Like, everything that the judges said and every comment from not only their intro package to when they're talking to Julianne is like, so tell us every detail. Tell us about it. Have you met family yet?
I mean, I thought initially that Bruno was making a reference to 9 to 5, that he was saying, overtime, as if working 9 to 5. But
you're probably right.
I guess that's a triple entendre then. And then it's also...
I think that's what they were going for as well. That these two are spending a lot more time together than just on the dance floor. And they get a couple of comments about their frame and how the footwork and all this stuff, the hold. And people, the judges seem to think that they have some potential going forward, which I would agree. I mean, the chemistry being there first and foremost is like half of the battle for any of the couples to really get that connection going. They obviously have it.
It's the wrong half, though, in my opinion. Like, I think you learn the basics first, and then you start bringing in the emotion. Start with the head and work your way down. Don't start with a very different type of head. And I think that's the issue, is like with the whole thing about the bad teacher, where Gleb teaches Brooks the wrong hold. I mean, he says in the package, like, I'm having a very tough time concentrating. And like, that could legitimately be a thing. If he has too many goo eyes for her, he could take his eye off the prize here. And then as a result, they might get a little sloppier. And I mean, Bruno, I think, makes it even more of an explicit reference in his feedback past the overtime stuff, which is like, cut out the foreplay. Like, you don't need to do the whole ballet teacher student setting where you're doing that fight over the bag. Just get to the damn dance. And yeah, it feels like a lot of foreplay happening right now. And I wonder if a relationship gets consummated, would that then allow them to kind of focus less on the tension and more on the task at hand?
I mean, Gleb teaching the wrong hold is literally insane. Like, you are the pro. Like, how is that possible?
And that's why I love
this, but the judges are going to call you out, and all of America is watching. Say, while he admits to them, yeah, oops, last week we had the tango, and then it was just kind of kept it in the same frame.
I mean, and that's why I'm so intrigued by Derek as a pro. There, again, it's almost like if Drag Race brought back a queen to be a judge, which they should, which is like, this is someone who is kind of your peer, right? Some of these people competed alongside Derek. And now he is here sort of like giving critiques. And I think he's able to come in from that level of like, come on, dude, I've been in the same shoes as you. You know better. It's a really valuable perspective to have. And I also always wonder, like, what is that dynamic like? Like, when the confetti falls on finale night, are they all back to being friends, or is there now some sort of inherent power dynamic whenever they interact with each other?
Well, so I do think that Derek kind of got out before most of these pros got in. He might have overlapped a very little bit with one or two of them, but a lot of this new guard of pros are in like the more recent seasons when Derek was done there. As far as like their relationship though with the judges and with the hosts and whatnot, you know, there's going to be plenty of opportunities throughout the rest of the season, every season, where the judges will give some kind of critique that makes the contestants feel a certain type of way, not always positively. And, you know, I would imagine at the end of the day, it is just a competition. To Phaedra, it might be a little bit more, you know, sometimes it's just a game. Is it not just a game? So I can't imagine anyone's going to but like there have been definitely times where Carrie-Anne especially has had a little bit of a feud with somebody who doesn't take her criticism well. I don't know what happens after the confetti rains down, but I'd like to know.
Yeah, and I was looking it up. I am pretty sure that there was some crossover where Julianne was a guest judge, was like an actual on the judging panel when Derek was a pro, which also
I think so.
Might have just been so odd, especially because of like the big brother, little sister dynamic. That's flipped on its head. The like fellow pros to now judge versus pro dynamic is flipped on its head. Very interesting reunions, I should say, between those like few seasons that they were on the show together.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I was like combing through some stuff the other day just to kind of like refresh myself on some of these pros and their history. And I was like, Julianne only did 5 seasons. That's crazy. But she did 5 like, you know, super impactful seasons where she won 2 or 3 of them. And obviously just became a huge star within those 5 seasons where she was like, I don't need to keep dancing on this. I'm a star in my own right. The Huffs in themselves are a whole thing. So
right. It became less of like these Cheryls were more of the exception than the rule of like, yeah, you usually had your handful of years and then you kind of moved on and did other things and got professional gigs. I think the less that Dancing with the Stars was seen as sort of like a stepping stone to fame, then the more that people kind of more so became mainstays and made it their job as opposed to just kind of a holdover.
Exactly. Let's move on to our last couple of the night. If we are good with the Brooks and Gleb kissy show, Carrie-Anne was like waiting for those kisses. That was crazy. Ilona and Alan, we have our so Riley and Steven are America's sweethearts as far as these couples are concerned, but like Ilona and Alan are really going to give them a run for their money.
They're TikTok sweethearts.
They are TikTok sweethearts across the map. Instagram, like they know what they are doing and they are so good at it. They both are just these lovely personalities that are just trying to have a fun, silly time together. Like probably top 3 best pairings that the producers did in putting these people together just for that reason. Ilona's coming out here trying to just have fun with it. You know, she's talked a lot about, you know, wanting to be a good example for people about loving yourself and your body and whatnot. She's had some, you know, confidence issues there, but aside from all of that, she is just such a joy, such a ray of light on this season. And like she gets the closing spot here for that reason, because she is just so much fun. And last week did not end very fun. Last week ended with Anna, and that was crazy. This week ended with some fun. So I really enjoyed the 2 of them together this week.
Yeah, which makes me so sad when like the dance ends and she's clearly mad at herself. And that's the other tough thing as well when it comes to bringing in these athletes, is that of course they're very competitive and they are borderline perfectionist sometimes. And so you could tell like Ilona, despite the fact that she has so much fun with getting to do this, she does take things very seriously. And I would imagine, if I'm putting myself in her head, has the propensity to kind of beat herself up if she is not doing things to the ability that she thinks she can. So talking about the routine, it was messy, but it was such a good time. You know, I love the take on, of course, the iconic Dirty Dancing. I mean, just such a beautiful moment. One of the best moments in Dancing with the Stars history, in my opinion, when you have Jennifer Grey, who ended up playing Baby in the original film, does this dance for the first time since I think Patrick Swayze's death. And it's just such a beautiful moment. And she goes on to win the season, etc. This is, of course, their own spin on it, right? Quite literally, as they decide to do their own version of it. I loved the trading off, flipping each other.
Cute.
It was so cute. I am a little worried they pulled it out a bit early.
This
feels like a trick that would have been very fun to do down the line. And I understand she's a woman of the internet. She was responding immediately to the lines of like, oh yeah, you should be able to flip Alan. But I almost kind of felt like stick with the hold, the iconic hold for this week, and then pull that out down the line. Because when it's going to happen again, actually, I say that saying it might be less impressive. I will say, as fun as it was a little sloppy, the execution. Like, you could tell that when Alan flipped her and then like she would do a step out in rhythm, that she was almost stepping perpendicular. Like, she was stepping where her side was facing us. And obviously that's not usually what you want to do in ballroom. You want to be facing the judges and facing the audience. So if they're able to tighten that up, then I would like to see this trick pulled off again and again. But it did leave me feeling afterwards, oh man, did we just kind of shoot our wad there? Like, is this something that they're going to be able to do again and it will get as much of a fun surprise pop as it did this first time?
I think it will. I think it's like, anyone that pulls out like an actually good fun party trick, like, usually there's an audience saying, do it again, do it again. And I feel like that's going to be the case for these two. I agree. It was executed a little messy. They obviously get better scores this week. They get 7s across the board instead of last week's 6s. So, they're showing signs of improvement. And even if Ilona's beating herself up after all is said and done, she really shouldn't be, because the judges are as in love with her as I think the audience is at this point. Yeah. Just pointing out that, they are somebody, they are a couple that are really doing a good job storytelling with their face, with their emotions, with just showing that they're having a good time. Like, when the entire audience is on their feet during your dance, especially after all said and done, like, how are the judges going to sit there and give you a lower score? If they're thinking between a 6 and a 7, I'm going to push that 7 because I see how everybody's reacting to it.
With all those standing ovations that Alfonso remarked on last night, should they give the audience standing desks as well? Should there just be no chairs in the house, standing room only?
How would you enjoy that as an audience member?
I mean, considering that to get in there, you probably have to stand for hours anyway. Either it would just be par for the course, or your legs would be like jelly. You'd be walking around like Reginald afterwards.
Yeah, they give you like the commercial breaks to sit down, and then otherwise you just have to stand up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, listen, we've all like stood for 4 to 6 to 8 hour concerts in our lifetime. True. You could weather it out for the pursuit of Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, and speaking of the audience, I wish there was somewhere to go. I've checked Reddit, I've checked Twitter, to see like a full list of people like that are like guest stars in the audience, not guest stars, but like the people that show up for the celebrities. Like, apparently Johnny Bananas was there last week, and I didn't even notice.
Oh yes, because it cut to like Phaedra's friends, and it was like a housewife.
It just goes so quick.
And it was Johnny Bananas there. I will say this was not a friend in the audience. I could have sworn, Matt, when it cuts to like the final reveal and it's Alfonso and Julianne and the band behind them, I could have sworn that was Barry Williams back there. Next, in the back? Like next to the band, the band leader. Yeah, like I could have. I mean, listen, he's obviously a friend of the show, was on last season. It looked just like him. I don't know if it was a background singer that just looked like him, if they brought him in as a background singer. I couldn't look up anything to verify this, but I could have sworn I saw him just randomly pop up last night.
Saying I need a list. I need someone to help keep track of all the celebrities that show up that are just because those shots are obviously very quick. The dances are quick. They have a lot to get through.
Yeah, there we go. I just saw on Entertainment Weekly. Brady Bunch legend Barry Williams makes groovy return to Dancing with the Stars to show his support.
All right, so you're not going crazy.
Yeah, there we go. Look at Barry making an exciting return after. Listen, again, I understand what Carrie Ann said about, again, sliding scale and what guys like Reginald and Eric have had to go through, but like, look what Barry Williams was able to do last season.
Yeah. So Ilona and Alan did a very fun dance. I've had the time of my life, and they get some good scores again, some 7s, no 8s yet, but I feel like that could be on the horizon for them.
And I do think you mentioned this with Jenn. I do think from a song perspective, it makes sense if you're like a DJ basically and you're trying to make a good set list. It makes sense to open with the song that Jenn did, which was like this big rollicking rolly 20s score, and then close with one of the most iconic dance affiliated shows in human history.
Yeah. As far as getting to the results go, we obviously already talked about who is going to end up leaving the competition, unfortunately, for Tori Spelling and Pasha, and then Anna and Ezra. Their time on this season ends here. We'll probably see them back on the finale. Usually all of the eliminated couples.
Do you think we're seeing Anna Delvey back for the finale?
We'll probably see Tori and Pasha back on the finale, and we'll see Ezra there in some capacity. But their time here ends now. my criticism has been for years and will continue to be that they do not leave enough time at the end of the episode for all of this. They are always rushing to get through, a final word with the eliminated contestants, but they also will then point you to Good Morning America the next day to actually get the final words with them.
Yeah, I kind of wish that almost like American Idol, they did like a send-off, whether it's, okay, now you're going to perform this dance one last time. Again, it would be awkward last night because of the fact that there are two couples, and one of which, like, Anna probably would have walked off the show. The ankle monitor would have started beeping because she would have left the premises if she was asked to do that dance again. But I think that's a fun way to send them off rather than, do a little bit of like, a hurry up. Oh, yeah, what was your favorite part of on Dancing with the Stars? Really going to miss you. Okay, bye. See you next week, everybody.
Yeah. Yep. And we're not going to see them next week. We're going to see them in 2 weeks because, again, next week is the VP debate. So we will have 2 episodes back to back starting the following Monday and Tuesday. It'll be Soul Train night and Hair Metal night. Now, I think I get what they're going for with Hair Metal night, but have I ever heard somebody describe is that I just may not know what I'm talking about. That's what it's called, Hair Metal?
Yeah. Like
I've never heard that.
It's just like you understand what it means, though, right? Like it's all the bands from the 80s who had long hair.
I've just never heard that term.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's something that people use to refer to maybe not a specific genre, but almost like a lifestyle. It represents that era. So I imagine we're going to get a lot of late 80s, early 90s hard rock in particular.
Well, we'll see. A lot of fun themes throughout the whole season. So again, if this is your first season, every week does have a different theme. Obviously, this week with the movies.
Though I did see something on Reddit that I thought would have been amazing to have 2 nights back to back, do My Most Memorable Year, which is, of course, a fan favorite theme, and do night 1 are the celebs and night 2 are the pros. Because that's the thing, is that these pros, it's almost like the challenge due to the fact that they stick around for so long. We get to know them as sort of staples of the show in and of themselves, but we don't get an opportunity to like explore their most memorable year. And so that could have been a really fun thing. Maybe we'll get it down the line, but would have been a fun opportunity given the fact that we have these nights back to back. And now instead we get the 1-2 punch of Soul Train and Hair Metal.
Yep. That's going to be an interesting combo. And again, it'll be interesting to see because we don't know, I don't think just yet, if there's going to only be one elimination between, either one elimination both nights or like a double elimination after Tuesday. If everybody's going to be practicing their 2 performances all week, whatever they decide, we'll find out all together that Monday. Again, between now and then, next week, we are trying to put a little something together to still have a Dancing with the Stars podcast next week. Again, thanks to all of you for the positive, amazing feedback that you gave and all the downloads. Please make sure to subscribe over here on YouTube, over on your podcast feeds, robhasawebsite.com/subscribe. It'll take you all the places that you would want to go to subscribe and make sure that you don't miss an episode. We'll have on social media throughout the week, sometime before next week, of what exactly is going on by then. And then again, the week after, hopefully, if all set up well, and it should be, we'll be going live after the episode. So whatever, we will all react to the nothing of that week. Anna Delvey is not going to be there herself, but if somebody else gives a reaction just like that, we'll be there right after.
And again, I cannot speak highly enough about that. And again, that comes with a big but, that yes, obviously what she has done is so heinous. But look, I've been doing this for a long time, covering reality TV. I like to say that the reason why my voice is so high pitched and nasally is because I just plug my nose eternally and kind of move forward, knowing that I am talking about people who are sometimes not doing very good things in the outside world, inside the world of reality television. And to that, I will say I was entertained by the Anna Delvey experience on Dancing with the Stars. It was incredibly different. Again, this is a bad comparison, but it was almost like seeing Cody Nixon on Big Brother 19, where it's like, again, the typical, and I understand that face, but it's the idea that like this show has a typical energy behind it. And then you have this immovable object of, meaning the unstoppable force of like, someone that does not care and just brings an absolute 1 in terms of enthusiasm to the blaring 10 that is Dancing with the Stars. I thought it created some funny moments. That said, I am happy that we are sort of 2 weeks and out on it. We had our mimetic moment to finish out her time on it, and I'm ready to move forward with a group of people that are excited to be there and ready to dance their souls off and bare their souls for America.
Yeah, and look, nobody's happier than Ezra. I know he's first out, but he gets to escape. He'll go back to the troop,
I'm
dance with his
free meme
sister.
tweet.
Yeah, so that is that. So again, subscribe, please. Make sure you're doing that. Of course, check out everything going on over on Patreon. Another fun episode of The Slop was just posted, which, as we were talking about, the connection between Chandler and DJ Big Showtime, or whatever his name is. If you want to hear more discussion on that, on the latest episode of The Slop, plenty of things going on over here on all these different feeds on We Know Reality TV. We've got plenty of Survivor coverage, Big Brother coverage, all that good stuff. So make sure you are subscribed and you don't miss a second of it. Mike, what's going on for you after you get off of here?
Oh, so many things, because we are, now that the fall has come around, Matt Liguori, we are in quite a tornado, not a beat-nado, which is appearing on ABC later on, but a tornado of a reality television. Lovingly so. Of course, we have Survivor. We have Big Brother. We have a show you lovingly cover, The Challenge. We have The Circle. I'm doing coverage of all that, namely Exit Press over on Parade.com. I also do the B&B with Liana Boris talking Survivor every week. From a scripted TV perspective, I do TV for real with the aforementioned co-host of this podcast, Sasha Joseph, where she and I talk with a reality star about their tastes on scripted television. Also had Brandon on there, the third co-host on the podcast at one point. I'm doing Lost podcast with Josh Wigler. I'm covering The Penguin with Grace Leader, which is currently on HBO. So a lot is happening. You can check out everything I'm doing. If you want a fully encapsulated 7-second clip of that Anna Delvey nothing moment, you can check it out on my social media, along with a bunch of other stuff at a Mike Bloom type. And thanks for having me on, Matt. And congratulations for the pickup. Hopefully it was as easy as Dwight and Danny.
Yeah, I mean, look, they made it look easy. I'm hoping that we made it look easy as well. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining, because, again, Sasha and Brandon unavailable this week, but they will be back. Sasha, at the very least, will be back by next week, and Brandon's going to hop in and out as he's able to. So that is the current plan. For myself, this past week was on both RHAP and Nothing But Netflix. I don't know
really
how I got so lucky.
Rounds, yeah.
I don't know how I got so lucky this week, but stopped over on RHAP to talk some Step Up, a series that I have no familiarity with, but it is all about dancing. Akiva recruited some of us that have never seen the series, and Sasha, who has, to talk through some of those movies that we watched on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x speed. So that's RHAP. And then Nothing But Netflix, we talked about Child Star, which is actually hanging with Hulu this week. Chappelle and I talked about that, so you can find that on this feed as well. RHAP, of course, has its fantastic coverage of The Challenge. If you're looking for more coverage of The Challenge, check out the Free Agents podcast, where myself and Brian Scally talk through all that fun stuff. And then check out the Diary Room as well, where when I'm not talking about Big Brother over here with Tran, I'm talking about Big Brother with Aman, as we're trying to find the best Big Brother player of all time through a randomized bracket. So much stuff to check out. If you go check out everything that Mike and I are doing, maybe you'll finish by the next episode of Dancing with the Stars in 2 weeks. But can't be sure about that. So thank you again, Mike, for stepping in today. We'll be back very soon. Thank you all for checking this one out. We'll see you on the dance floor.